This podcast was produced by Shaun Weston Media.
From a dimly lit cupboard somewhere in England, two people chat about communications, and sometimes they chat about other things. Welcome to From the Comms Cupboard.
Is it strange that I hear that jingle now when you say that?
Oh, without... Because I put the jingle in afterwards.
Yeah, I think people realise that.
They think we're playing it on like a little xylophone or something.
That'd be fun.
So, when I do the intro, you now sort of hear it and then...
And then I feel like I'm on Bake Off.
Oh, I've been eating way too much cake lately. But if you were to tell me I should cut down on cake, that would be bad news, right?
Well, not for your arteries, but maybe for your soul. Definitely for your soul.
So, let's talk about how to deliver bad news. And let's leave cake out of this for now. What are the key ingredients, I'm not talking about cake, of delivering bad news? Should we talk about what bad news is first, or should we just crack right in there?
I think bad news explains itself.
Does it though? Isn't bad news different for different people?
Yeah, I guess it depends what you're going to hear.
Because bad news for one person could be great news for somebody else.
That's true. I think let's define it as something that's bad for you to hear.
Yeah.
It's not going to be positive.
Sally, you're leaving us tomorrow, I'm sorry. George, you've been promoted. You've got Sally's job.
Poor Sally.
Poor Sally.
What do they always say? Is it mainly like governments do, where they like to let something happen and then sneak out some bad news? Or, a natural disaster or something has happened in the world, so this is a good day for bad news.
Yeah, so they hide it under, sort of brush it out
and hope the press don't catch on.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how clever the press think they are, but they fall for that every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to your question, is what are the best ways to deliver it? I guess the best thing is to be direct. I mean, there's nothing worse than being given bad news and then someone talking around how great it is. Or how great this is for you, what an opportunity it is. Yeah. I think it's nicer to be really fair and clear, isn't it? So your Sally being let go, she doesn't need to know that it's a good opportunity for someone else.
No.
You need to have empathy for her situation.
Yeah. And not dress it up as something else.
Yeah. No sugarcoating. Yeah.
No sugarcoating. And I wonder if that's something that a leader who is not well versed in communication may stumble over. They think they have to over-explain the bad news.
Yeah, absolutely, and give all the reasons for it.
But you don't have to give all the reasons.
No, you don't. You don't, do you? And again, it's always comes back to this. But if you don't know, if you're not used to doing it, then you need to prepare for it, don't you?
What do you mean? So are we talking about planning again, John?
I'm going to say preparation.
Good preparation.
Good preparation. You need to think about what you're going to say to someone. You don't just, unless you're super confident and you're going to know what you're going to do, because it's never nice to give someone bad news. If you do like giving bad news, then perhaps. I'm thinking of that film with George Clooney where is it Up in the Air? Where gets sent and his job is to deliver the bad news to people. They fly around the world. Good movie, that.
It's a good film, and I remember, wasn't there a scene with J.K. Simmons in it? And she gives the bad news. She's in training. She's following George to shadow him.
And she'd prep for it.
And she messes it up royally. Yeah. Doesn't she, if I remember?
Yeah, because she talks around it too much.
That's a really good example. I feel like watching that film now.
Yeah, it's a good movie. But if you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to prepare for it and think about the questions that person might have. So, like any communication, you're going to say, when this message goes out, what's going to come back? What are people going to ask about this? How are they going to challenge it? And
different people will have different questions.
Yeah.
Depending on how it affects them, because the bad news can affect different people in different ways, can't it?
And some people think on their feet, don't they? And others don't. So some people will get the bad news, they'll take it in, and they might go away and then come back with some questions. So say it is, I guess, a conversation a lot of people are having a moment, about people losing their jobs or redundancy, then some people are going to be really shocked how you take any news in and maybe will go away and then think of things that they want to ask you afterwards. And I think that's part of what you need to do as a good leader if you're delivering bad news, is give them that opportunity to come back to you, take it away. Other people are going to think on their feet, and they're going to be maybe expecting the bad news, I guess, because some people are going to really feel that coming, so they might be like 5 or 6 questions, put you on the spot.
Yeah, there is that sense of follow-up, of being available. I think you're right that when you're in the moment, it can be a little bit of a surprise for you. But if you are a good leader, a good communicator, to be able to say, look, you may not have the question right now, but if you have it later, tomorrow, next week,
you can phone me.
You can phone me. Here's how you knock on my door.
Yeah.
I'm available for you.
Yeah. The other thing that always comes to mind with bad news for me is finding it out from the person giving it, opposed to finding it out on the grapevine. There's nothing worse than finding out, hearing 2 people having a coffee down the road. So empathy, big part of it, and part of that is to make sure that you're the first to know when you find out. It's horrible, isn't it, to know you haven't got something or something's not gone right, but to have heard it from someone else who's not involved in it at all.
Or the business is in trouble. I imagine this is quite difficult if you're a business that needs to encourage the facade of doing well, even though you know you're not, because you may have shareholders and all this sort of thing, and you need to show that we're okay, we're getting through this. At the same time, your employees need to know the truth, because they're the ones that are going to help you out of it.
Yeah, you want them to be performing better, don't you? If you're not. So
that's sugarcoating, isn't it? When you tell your employees that actually the business is doing really, really well, keep going, but actually it's not, and you find out in the Sunday Times.
Yeah, I mean, we've probably all been there where someone comes to you with this bad message, this bad news that you need to put out there, but want you to dress it up a little bit as something else.
Yeah.
So I guess from a comms professional perspective, you would always want to encourage people to be as truthful as possible. Obviously, you don't want to create panic in an organisation, but you do want people to know what they're doing.
I've always appreciated truth, because I've been made redundant. I've been through in companies that have been liquidated. I've also been asked to take a pay cut and things like that. I remember a good incident of being made redundant, and it was handled so well and so humanely, with a sense of empathy and humanity, that I left that company and wanted it to succeed after me. I thought that my sacrifice of being let go, I hope it's worthwhile. I've also been with a company that was rather dishonest, and they left things till the last minute, and I wanted them to go under.
Yeah. I mean, I think you shared with me a couple of weeks ago a really great communication from a company that you know well, who had unfortunately been forced to lay some people off, but really not wanted to do that. And I think most companies don't want to do that. And had really set about helping those people to make the best start, giving them advice, giving them equipment, but also offering to give them really good recommendations to employers, which I think you need at the time, don't you? And to feel that way. So I think that was a really good example you shared recently. It was
very transparent, wasn't it? There was there was a sense, like you said at the beginning of this conversation, there was a sense of assertiveness to it, being direct, but also being human. Yeah. And remembering, the laptop we've given you, keep it. It's going to help you get your next job. Yeah. If we can do that little thing for you, then that's what we'll do.
Exactly, yeah.
And it was such a good letter, I thought.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
Before we finish this, we've made an assumption a little bit on this in this conversation, that bad news is often delivered face to face. The worst possible thing you can do is get it via an email or a newsletter. Do companies do that, or am I just thinking badly of them?
Oh, I bet they do. I mean, we might be seeing big examples, I guess, of companies going into administration and things at the moment, and you may just get a letter or not even know. You may turn up to, and you see it on the news, don't you? Oh, we turned up to work today.
And all the desks have gone.
All the desks, and there's just a piece of paper stuck to the window that said, we've gone into administration, you're not being paid. And it is awful. So is it the best way to give bad news is always to be upfront and personal to that person, right? You have to, as much as possible.
In a different episode, perhaps, we should talk about what it's like to receive bad news. But I think that's for a different episode.
I think so too.
Yeah. But for now, let's think good news.
Yes.
Everything's good news.
Everything's going well.